here with an unlimited supply of misinformation, is Mr. Know-It-All.
That's it. That's me. I am Sean King. This is your Mac Life for July 24th, 2012. Thank you all very much for joining me here this lovely, not really, Wednesday evening. I want to appreciate... yeah, I can hear myself. I thought I was having audio problems, but turns out the audio is working just fine. It seems like it's a problem because when it works just fine, I get suspicious. It kind of scares me. Oh, I'm turning the wrong... Which audio am I turning up? Can you guys hear me okay? Oh my goodness. How about this one? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. You guys know that. It's a pretty common issue around here. My apologies to all of our loyal listeners for not being here last week. Last week, if you saw the picture I posted up on the YourMacLifeShow.com website, there was a huge, nasty, evil, gnarly thunderstorm between Banff, Alberta, Canada, where I was, and Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where I needed to be in order to do the show. And there was no way I was going to be riding through that. So today, well, just leave early. Check the weather map. Weather map says thunderstorms possible, 30% chance of thunderstorms in Calgary, in the area between Calgary and Canmore, between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. All right, that's great. I leave at 3, not a problem. So the cute Italian girl and I hop on the motorcycle, and off we go. We get 20 minutes into a ride, thunder, lightning, oh, crap, rain coming down on top of us. I pull over under an overpass. I pull off under an overpass, traffic going past us, water everywhere, we're soaked to the skin. And I lean back to the cute Italian girl who is not feeling well, who's not 100%. And I said to her, if you want to turn around and go back, we can. We're only 20 minutes into the trip. We can turn around. It's an hour-long trip. We can turn around and go back if you want to, if you're not feeling well. And the cute Italian girl, say hi.
Ciao.
She says ciao. That's Italian for both hello and goodbye, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, yep. And yep is apparently Italian too. So I gave her the choice. I said, if you're not feeling well and don't want to make this trip, so it's up to her. She said, yes, let's push on through. And we did, and it turned out we go around one big bend and it stopped raining. There was this weird cloud pattern only over the Trans-Canada. It was sunny to our north, sunny to our south, and this band of cloud over top of us in the Trans-Canada. So it's thanks to her that there is a Your Mac Life show this evening. So all y'all, if you enjoy the show, say thanks to the cute Italian girl. If you don't enjoy it, it's always going to be my fault. That's just the way it's always going to be. Let's see if I can't find this thing for you. As always, we encourage you guys to join us in the IRC chat room, thanks to the nice folks at irc.chat-solutions.org. We're in the Pound Your Mac Life channel, and if you guys want to join us there, you are more than welcome to join us in the IRC chat room. That's where all the fun happens. That's where all the cool kids hang out, is in the IRC. You can also, as always, send us emails to onair@yourmaclifeshow.com if you'd like to send us an email during the show or during the week. So I'm living in the wilds of the hinterlands, the untouched, raw. No, it's the whole scenario is like this. This morning, I look across the street, and walking across the street, clear as day, elk. Gigantic freaking elk. This thing was monstrous. This thing was probably at the shoulder 5 feet, 5.5 feet tall, and that's not even a big elk. That's just sort of like an average everyday northern exposure. Mosquito says northern exposure, exactly. Walking through the town, this big full rack elk, and so I get my iPhone out, and I'm walking towards the elk and take a picture. I take a few more steps towards the elk and take a picture. Because I'm wondering how close can I get to this elk? How close do I dare get to this elk? Because look at the rack on that thing. And I'm not talking, this is not a girl elk. This is a boy elk. And he's still got a great rack. And so I take another picture. And I walk a little closer. Another picture. And then I go to take 2 more steps. And the elk gives me this look like, close enough, dude. Literally, he just sort of turned very slowly and looked at me and said, no, you get any closer, I'm going to stab you with these things I have on top of my head. Beautiful animals, just gorgeous. And he was just wandering down the street. He'd stop. You can see in the picture behind, he'd stop and munch on some leaves, and then off he'd go and take a few more steps and munch on some more leaves. And they're great to see when you're stationary. When you're in a vehicle or a motorcycle, terrifying. Not fun at all. Not something you want to be anywhere near in a vehicle, let alone a motorcycle. We also went this past weekend to the beautiful Columbia ice fields, the Jasper Glacier. And again, if you watch if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see the picture I posted of what's called Bow Lake, and it's on the way between Banff and the Columbia ice fields. And as you're driving, if it's sunny, and you're driving this big swoopy curve over on your left-hand side, you'll see, I swear, this lake looks radioactive. It looks like it's a dump site for plutonium, that you should not get anywhere near it because you will start glowing. That's how green this lake is, how impossibly green this lake is. It's amazing. It really was kind of weird. Just like, what the hell is that? Why is it so green? Mosquito says algae. It's not algae. Stop it. So it's a beautiful area. It's a spectacular area. You guys have known since I've moved up here how much I think this is a beautiful area of the world, and encourage you, if you're ever looking for a vacation, definitely this is a spot you can come to, except for the weather, which apparently changes every 35 seconds. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot. Our IRC babe Sly won't be joining us this evening. Her vacation has got her all messed up, so she forgot about the show again. That's her excuse anyway. I think Big Brother's probably on. That's why she's bailing on us. But we will have a good friend Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. And Jim is going to make the attempt once again to be on our Skype video, which should be a lot of fun. And also via Skype, we're going to have Ben Bajarin. Ben is the columnist for techpinions.com, and Ben has written another, as he always does, interesting article. I wanted to get him to explain to me, because Apple made their announcement yesterday. They made a buttload of money. They sold a buttload of iPhones, a buttload of iPads, and yet the company's doomed and failing. Well, Ben wrote an article over at techpinions.com, Tablets, Seasonality, and Adoption Cycles. That was kind of an interesting article that I wanted to talk to him about on the show, and hopefully you guys will also find it as interesting as I did. Ben Bajarin at techpinions.com is going to be joining us via Skype a little later on the show. So we've got that. There was something else. Ooh. I have time? Let me get her to confirm this. Cute Italian girl, are we going to Italy in October? See, she said si, which is yes for Italian. It's also yes in Spanish, oddly enough. We're going to Italy. She is a Turinista. She is from Torino. Remember the Olympics a few years ago? She's from northern Italy, and she wants to go home to see her dad and her mom, who she hasn't seen since she moved to Canada 6 years ago. So I said, can I come? Can I come? Please, can I come? Please. And I begged and I pleaded, and eventually she went, oh, fine, you can come with me. So what's going to happen is we're not going to be doing, obviously, live Your Mac Life shows for the month of October. Yes, for the whole month. The whole 4 Wednesdays in October. Oh, I know, it's sad. But what we're going to be doing is both her and I are going to be posting things to a super secret website that only subscribers to Your Mac Life will have access to. You'll have a password, and there'll be audio, and there'll be video, and there'll be pictures, and there'll be stories, and all kinds of stuff about our trip to Italy. Not necessarily Mac stuff, but just, hey, this is what we're doing. We're in Torino. We're in Milano. You see, I got the accent down. I got it down cold, baby. We're in Venice, so we're the northern part of Italy, And but the cool thing is, I'll be doing it with a native Italian, a native of that region, who's a real snob about it too. Everything south of Rome. You've never been south of Rome, have you? She's never been south of Rome. That's because she doesn't like people south of Rome. They're snobs. But she won't go south of Rome. Am I right? Yeah, she's nodding. CCC. So she's the snob. But anyway, that's where we're going to be going for the month of October. So what I'm going to do is anybody who is a subscriber in the 3 months before October, the 2 months before October and the month of October. So if you're a subscriber in any of the months of August, September, or October, you will be signed up for access to this website, where we're going to be basically experimenting with a bunch of internet tools, how to upload stuff, audio and video, pictures, whatever I can think of. And hopefully it'll be, a Mosquito says, I'm kind of waiting for the CIG to throw something at his head. She's not that kind of girl. She's a gentle soul. She wouldn't throw anything at me. I thought I saw her hand coming up. Mosquito says, your chow life. That's a dumb name, Mosquito. You know what we'll get? Oh, I just had a brilliant. Our own private Italy. Your own private Italy. Your own Italian life? I don't know. I'll figure something out. But that way, because I'd feel bad for the subscribers who have subscribed and will subscribe, but won't get anything for the month of October. But I still want to be able to post stuff and do things like that, so I came up with this sort of hybrid idea that the vast majority, I'll still post things as Twitter and that stuff. But the more in-depth stuff, the writing, the audio, the video, that kind of stuff will only be for subscribers. So this is your opportunity to, first of all, help pay for the bandwidth. For those of you who have not noticed, there are no more ads in the video feed or the audio feed live of the show. Thank God I got rid of the ads. But what I did was I went out and paid for the bandwidth on my own. The money that you guys that you guys send as subscriptions gets put into bandwidth, is paying for the bandwidth for the video and audio. So that's why you're not seeing any more of those stupid Ustream ads. So I wanted to do this for you folks. What you do is you go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com, as always. Right to the top of the page, it says Friends of YML, and you can enter the contest to win stuff, but you can also, on the left-hand side, with PayPal, subscribe to Your Mac Life for $2, $5, $10, $15. Doesn't matter what it is. Even if you only subscribe for $2 for August, September, October, you'll still get access to the My Own Private Italy. My Own Private. I kind of like that. I think that might work. To that site and to the audio and the video and the pictures and all that kind of stuff. We'll talk more about it as we go along. But that's another reason why you should subscribe to Your Mac Life. Later on, we are going to be talking to Ben Bajarin of, that's the wrong picture, Ben Bajarin of techpinions.com, talking about tablet seasonality and adoption cycles. But up next, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is Your Mac Life. Do we have Jim there? Jim, you there?
Hey,
Hey, how you doing?
good.
Jim, folks, this is Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. Let me get Jim's video set up. You just got back from dinner with your son, didn't you?
I did.
Good for you. How'd that go?
Went well. Food sucked, but it went well.
You talk about manly things?
No, Monique was there too.
I'm not going for that. I'm not doing it. No way. You can't make me. Hey, yesterday Apple announced their massive amounts of profits, massive amounts of billions of dollars in the bank, massive numbers of iPhones sold, and yet, once again, it was described as a blah quarter. Do you agree?
Why do I hear Miami Vice music?
What?
Now it's gone. You were playing some Miami Vice music or something.
I'm not playing Miami Vice music.
You're sure?
Why would I do that?
You're just messing with me.
I wouldn't. I absolutely couldn't. So it was a down quarter, wasn't it? I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's a little bit of, shall we say, softness in Apple's numbers. They didn't sell as many Maxes before. They didn't make as much. What is their ASP? Their average selling price is down. But it's not of a big concern, is it? Even though others would disagree with us.
Well, I mean, when I look at, and I said it this afternoon in a tweet, when I look at any company and they're reporting billions of dollars in profit,
Yeah.
I have to say that's a win.
That's right.
I mean, it doesn't matter what the company is, Samsung or Google or Apple, it just doesn't matter. When you have billions of dollars in profit, you're okay in my book.
Yeah, I think you can start worrying about Apple when they start, losing money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy because there are companies out there that have never had any money, like Amazon, and people are all high on them. So, when you look at the numbers, yes, the Macs were down, and I haven't looked back to see when the releases were, if they were close to this quarter last year. That would have affected that, but certainly the iPad was released last year, and that would have affected this quarter's numbers. So there's some reason for that, and these aren't excuses. It's more trying to figure out, okay, why did they sell so many last year and not as many this year? But going against that is the iPhone 5.
Yep.
They sold more than ever of the iPhones.
I think it's very interesting that even though it's at least a 6 to 10 month old product for most people, it's still selling like literal hotcakes. Verizon just announced that they more activations of the iPhone than any other product the last year. 56% of all their activations are on the iPhone, even though it's a 6 month to 10 month old product.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Do you have any thoughts as to why that would be the case?
Well, I don't think that a lot of people care about, it's a 6 month old, 10 month old product. People are going to buy phones when they go to buy them. They're just not like us. They don't wait and pay a penalty. They're not going to pay a penalty.
Yeah. I would love to know, and I wonder if Verizon has these numbers or if someone has these numbers. I would love to know how many people from Verizon or any other instance bought an iPhone 5 who had an Android device before. They got one for free from Verizon or AT&T, and they found they didn't like it for any number of reasons. And they decided, well, rather than going for this cheap knockoff thing, let's buy an iPhone 5 instead. I wonder how many people are former users of other devices, other OSs, and have chosen to upgrade to the iPhone 5. I think that'd be a fascinating subject of study.
Yeah. Well, they sold 5 million this quarter than they did this time last year.
Yeah.
They still made $8 billion in profit. I mean, it's not like they only made $1 million or $10. They made $8 billion in profit.
That's right.
I mean, really.
Why can't people keep that thought in perspective?
I don't know.
That the Guardian said this was a blah quarter. I can guarantee you that 95% of the companies on the planet would kill for that kind of blah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I bet you the Guardian would kill for that kind of
No
block.
kidding. Yeah, they're a
You know?
newspaper. Yeah, they're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, you're going down regardless of what happens to Apple. So good luck with that. I just I don't understand, and that's when I don't understand where people get off saying Tim should be replaced,
Yep.
and all this kind of stuff. What?
Yep.
You're not qualified to say that. Maybe Warren Buffett might be qualified to say that, but you're not.
No.
Because you're a reporter, you're a writer, you're hardly qualified to tie your own shoes.
Well, yeah, especially if you work for CNBC.
So,
Yeah, and you know what? I think part of it for me is the frustration of us having to have this conversation every 3 months, as long as you and I have known each other.
Yeah.
This has been the case. Apple's made money hand over fist, and every single time around, a large group. It's not like it's just one idiot like John Dvorak or something like that, but large groups of people. The Motley Fool and the Guardian and this website and that website. Oh, Apple's doomed, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking about just boycotting all discussion of Apple quarterly earnings because it's just pointless nowadays.
I think Brian Chafin pretty much summed it up he picked one guy from CBS, but I think he pretty much summed it up for everything. They're asking the wrong questions, and they're not paying attention.
They just don't seem to be qualified to have the discussion that they're having. And yet, because of the internet, they're allowed to have it. This is if we were in college and some idiot student stood up and said the same dumb things, the professor would bitch slap him, he'd sit down and go away. Yeah. But there's no one bitch slapping anybody here on the internet. Everyone can say whatever they want, and if you have a big enough megaphone like CNBC, like The Guardian, people pay attention to you.
Yeah, it's true. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yep. Yeah, folks, go to macobserver.com. Brian Chafin's got another one of his Apple is a dead company walking. He's been doing his Apple death knell now for seemingly years, and this time he slaps around who's the guy's name? CBS News, Dave Logan.
Logan, yeah. But this is what, Death Knell 63 or something?
Yeah, exactly. And it's people saying Apple is dead and here's why. Yeah. And they've been saying this for at least 10 years. At least that long, Apple is dead and dying.
And the difference this time is that the day after the earnings, the stock actually went up.
Yep.
And they're still ringing the death knell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it was like I posted on Twitter yesterday that some idiot at Killian Bell at Cult of Mac said Apple had hit new highs and now they've hit record lows. Really, you idiot? What are you, 12? The record low for Apple was $7.
Yeah,
it's at $400 now. That's another part of the problem too. I think is that there's so few people with a sense of the history of Apple, of where the company's been. People forget that at one point you could have bought Apple for its own assets. In other words, you could have gone to a bank and said, lend me $10 billion and I'll pay it back to you tomorrow when I sell off all this stuff. You could have bought Apple for Apple.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the issues that there's just lack of perspective or lack of a historical range of understanding of where Apple's been, where Apple is, and where Apple is going. It seems like everyone was surprised that Tim Cook said in the earnings call yesterday, and we've got some great new products this fall. I was like, really, you do? Haven't you been paying attention?
I know. I just, that's part of what I don't understand. They're not listening.
Gene Munster slammed Apple on CNBC, and through the December quarter, he said, because Apple's got nothing to announce. Gene, buddy, now I know the Apple TVs burnt you, but Apple's going to announce something in September. Now, it may not be the earth-shattering thing that you want it to be, but they're going to announce something that they will sell a metric buttload of over the next 4 months. Yeah. I just don't understand it. Just don't get how we have to continually have this conversation about these idiots.
Every 3 months.
Like clockwork. Speaking of idiots, why does the Wall Street Journal think that it's news that Apple is testing new sizes of iPhones and iPads?
I don't know.
It seemed like everyone picked up on the story as if it was news. It's called R&D, you asshats.
You know,
It's what they're supposed to do.
I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, they're obviously not paying attention either.
I could. Whoa, what the hell? No incoming call. Hang on, go away. I could understand it if it was some idiot like Cult of Mac or some little Mickey Mouse blog, but it's the Wall Street effing Journal.
Yeah.
Who you'd think would know better. This is not news. This is not big above the fold kind of breaking news story. It was just befuddled me when I saw, and then everyone picked up on the story as if it was, oh, the Wall Street Journal has news. This is not news, kids.
No,
not news.
It's not even anything.
It's not even interesting.
Nothing.
It's nothing. This is what Apple does. This is what they're supposed to do. This is what you want them to do, is test new products.
And it's what they've always done. You know, it just, you got to shake your head.
Yeah.
You really do.
Well, you said something interesting earlier, and I want to follow up on it, about the newspapers are already dead and dying. Ted Landau from Macworld and MacFixit many years ago and Mac Observer wrote a very interesting article about PC World not going under, but shutting down their print version. PC World will still be available online, will still be available in a digital format. And then he sort of related it to PC World's sister company, Macworld. Do you think Macworld magazine in the next 5 years, let's put a time frame on it, will stop as a physical print edition of the magazine? Not that it'll go away. I don't think Macworld will ever go away.
No.
But do you think the hard copy Dead Tree edition will eventually go away in the next 5 years?
It's a good question. I think that most publications are going to go away in one way or another. I mean, maybe Macworld will hold out a bit longer than most. I mean, Macworld held out in the layoffs and everything for years after some others had started.
Yeah.
So, you know, they could be stronger. But, you know, I think part of what Jason Snell has to do now, and clearly he's already started, is to figure out where the expenses are and where they can make their money. Yeah. And, you know, the fact that they closed down the PC World print, not Macworld print, shows that there's still life in Macworld. So they could very well keep that going, you know, for the next 10 years. But you know, a lot of that has to do with the technology. Look at the publishing technology we have now compared to where we were 5 years ago.
No.
I mean, if you had asked me 5 years ago if PC World would be shutting down, I'd say no. They'd shut every other magazine down before PC World.
Yeah.
But yet here we are.
He makes an interesting point of the saying that Macworld will survive. If Macworld will survive, it's because it is a niche magazine. Those are always going to be more popular than the general interest. Jim, you still with us?
Yeah.
You can. That Macworld will survive because it's a more targeted, more focused audience. But I don't know if I agree with that. I think Macworld's focus has changed a lot. Back in the days, even before you were writing for them, it was very much a tech magazine. It was focused on tech managers and jeez. Speaking of losing focus, Dalrymple's mucking about. But do you think that's true? That because it's a more targeted magazine than say a PC World or other magazines, that it has a greater chance of surviving?
Well, I mean, let's face it, Macworld is more focused, regardless of how you look at what the focus is right now. It is a very focused thing. I mean, PC World was kind of, you know, PC stuff, and then more recently they've done a lot more Mac stuff, you know, but Macworld never did PC stuff.
True. Yep.
So PC World was kind of crossing the line there into the Mac stuff, and to be honest, their Mac stuff was probably the more popular stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so I think that, you know, if you take that Mac stuff that the PC World magazine was doing and just put it into Macworld, you probably have a better magazine there anyway, and you have that more focused audience. On the PC side, you probably have the PC guys saying, why do you have all these Mac articles? So you're kind of in a no-win situation.
But isn't Macworld having that same issue when it comes to their iOS articles? That every time they post something on the website, you'll often see someone bitching and whining about the fact, there's too much stuff about iOS, about iPhones and iPads. Could Macworld survive as a Mac-only magazine, do you think? That if they stopped doing those kinds of things and went back to the days of being a hardcore techie magazine?
That's not how I really view Macworld as just a Mac magazine. I mean, I look at Macworld and I would expect to see iOS stuff and Mac stuff. Sometimes the balance is missed, but I don't know that you can help that. It all depends on what's hot that day or that month. So I think that for Macworld, they kind of have to focus on the whole Apple world.
Yeah.
And that's iOS and Mac too. And I know a lot of people are kind of fed up with the iOS stuff, and I can see their point, because for a long time everybody reported on cases and people reported on all these small accessories. But I think that sites are doing a better job now of saying, okay, we're going to focus on some in-depth how-to stuff or big news on the operating system and on the devices, and the same with the Mac, and do some reviews in there as well, but not to the point that it was before.
Are you still allowed to read Macworld after they fired you?
Oh my God!
I wasn't sure if there was a ban. I don't know how print works, so I don't know when you get fired from a place, would they still mail you a subscription? I guess is the question I'm asking.
Yeah,
no.
I don't get a subscription to Macworld now.
Yeah, that's the next question I was going to ask. When's the last time you read a hard copy version of Macworld?
Would have been when I worked there.
Yeah.
But then that's not really a fair question to ask without also stating that I don't read a hard copy of anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I used to have Guitar World, Macworld, all of these magazines coming into the house, and I would sit down and read them. I don't do that anymore.
Really? Yeah.
I just don't.
It's interesting. I thought that I was always going to be a paper magazine guy. I love the feel of paper magazines. I love the feel of books. But it's funny, now that I've moved back to Canada, subscriptions have tripled in price.
Yeah.
Like, for example, my motorcycle magazines are $10 for 12 issues in the U.S. They're $30 and $40 an issue up here in Canada because of postage and tax and all that kind of crap. So now I'm getting those digitally.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's going to affect things too, because the magazines, Macworld and others, can probably still make money, if not more money, as a digital version of themselves. They don't need to have the paper version anymore, do they? There's no need to have a paper version of Macworld magazine.
Well, I don't know. And the reason that I say that is because people still want a paper version. Yeah. And if there was no need to make it, I mean, all magazines, Macworld included, is going to hit a point where expenses are going to start rising up over what the subscription costs and advertising costs can withstand.
Yeah.
And that's when they have to cut it loose. I mean, you don't have a choice at that point but to say, okay, it's just not cutting it anymore. So now we're only going to have this digital copy. And that's what I like about Newsstand, because it's giving these magazines a place to go. So that it's not that we're going to lose magazines altogether.
Yep.
We're going to lose the print. And, at some point in the future, in 10 or 20 years, there's going to be some guy who's going to release a print version of a magazine that started on the iPad.
Yeah.
And it's going to be this novelty, where kids go and buy it like they do vinyl.
Vinyl, that's right, exactly.
So that will happen, and it'll be this big boom, but it'll close down within 2 years.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting time for magazines, and I'm glad that I'm not in Jason's spot.
Yeah.
You know, having to figure out where that balance is.
Yeah.
You know, because they must be pretty close to, you know, unless advertising is doing very well these days.
Well, I don't think it is. I mean, as Ted Landau said in his article, you and I are both old enough to remember the heyday of the Macworld magazines, even Mac User magazine, when they were an inch and a half, 2 inches thick, and now they're the size of Time magazine. They're much thinner.
Yeah.
Ad ways. And the other problem I have, and the other reason why I don't have a lot of confidence, I certainly don't envy Jason Snell and the others at Macworld, the grown-ups there, but they're doing things now, even on the Macworld website, that's actively pissing off customers. We saw people last week talk about the really annoying autoplay ads that Macworld has started to put at the top of a lot of their articles that can't be turned off. Yeah. I mean, autoplay was bad 15 years ago at the beginning of the internet. This is the same thing as blinking text, Macworld. Why are you doing this? What the guys who should know better, the guys who've been around for as long as the rest of us have, why are they suddenly doing autoplay audio video ads on the top of their articles? That confuses me. That was a bad thing 10 years ago. And yet they're just starting to do it now. That's why I say I don't have a lot of confidence in where Macworld's going.
You know, I had to I linked to a couple articles in quick succession last week from Macworld. So I was at the site and the autoplay ad played, and I thought, what is that? And, you know, I finally found it, and I couldn't do anything with it, so I just muted it.
It's so annoying because what I do is I go through my RSS feed, click on links that'll open up in tabs behind my RSS feed, and just start reading. All of a sudden there'll be the sound coming. I've got 15 tabs open. Like, oh, which one of you sons of bitches is making noise? It's always Macworld. Nowadays, it's always Macworld, which is just really bizarre to think that they made a business decision to do that, which was, like I said, a bad decision 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, let's put under construction tags on things now too. You know, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense as to why they're suddenly doing that. And I don't know. I don't fear for the future of Macworld.com, but I don't believe that we'll see a print version of the magazine 5 years from now. I think it will be a necessity to get rid of that.
That quick?
I think so. I think 5 years. I think it'll be they'll justify it as making good business sense, but I think they'll have to do it in order to continue to be viable and making money. Who knows?
Yeah, you just don't know.
Yeah, you just don't know. Isn't that always the true? I love this stat with especially with Apple's announcements yesterday. You've got a story up at loopinsight.com. iPad hits a new high in web share usage. Samsung hits a new low.
What are people doing with them?
Exactly. That's a good question.
Tell me.
Please, someone help me. That's one of the questions I'm going to ask Ben Bajarin later on. You link to his article at techpinions.com. If 84% of tablet usage on the web is by the iPad.
Yep. Now, remember back, and I don't know what it was, but there was something like 88% of the revenue from mobile devices came from the iPad.
Yeah.
That was maybe sometime in the last 6 months. I mean, that's a pretty incredible number too.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So not only are people surfing on their iPad, they're also buying on their iPad.
Yeah.
You know, and Monique's a good example of that. You know, she'll buy stuff right from her iPad. She's sitting upstairs right now watching TV, and she has her iPad mini on her lap. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she could be playing a word game or, you know, whatever it is. Or shopping.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's all there. It's all there for you. So
I think the crushing stat for Samsung was in second place, a distant second place, was not Samsung. It was the Kindle.
Now, when you say distant second, we're not talking from 80% to 60%.
That's right.
It's from 84% to 7.
No, even lower. The Kindle has dropped its share for the past few months, going from 7.4 down to 5.7.
Oh.
So it's getting worse for the Kindle. Same with Samsung, from 4.7 to 4.2. So it's not getting as bad, as fast as is for the Kindle.
Well, that's something.
What are people doing?
At least they beat the playbook.
That's right. I'd be willing to bet you could put out a beard tablet and it would beat the playbook.
You got to figure.
Yeah, you said in the story, what are people doing on these tablets? Like I said, I'd love to see a stat that said people bought an Android tablet because it was $99 or it was free with a cup of coffee and then decided, oh, crap, this thing is a piece of SOB. Let's buy an iPhone. Let's buy an iPad. I got to believe if Apple says 50% of all sales in its stores are from Windows users, and that number hasn't changed. You notice that number's not changed in 10 years? Apple's always, every quarter, it says 50% of our sales in the store are to new Mac users or Windows users. That always struck me as kind of odd that the number has never changed. But I'd be willing to bet it's probably the same with iPad users. I'd be willing to bet 50% of iPad users are from previous tablet devices.
A consistent 50% is a pretty strong number.
It is.
But
over 10 years, that number has not fluctuated. That makes me suspicious.
I don't know. I mean, when you think that the number might go down, Apple releases a new iPod or Apple releases they're not necessarily buying Macs.
Yep.
They're buying iPhones, they're buying iPods, they're buying iPads. So Apple, they consistently release these products every few years and they keep it at 50%.
Yep.
Don't forget, there's a lot of Windows users out there.
Yeah, that's the other thing, too. I think that's something else that a lot of analysts forget is that no matter how big and huge Apple gets, there's still a huge market out there, people who do not own any Apple products or do not own an iPad or do not own. It's monstrous. I'd be willing to bet it's at least a factor of 10 higher than what Apple's already sold. So Apple's got insane amounts of space to grow into. So for these people to say that the iPad has peaked, no, it hasn't peaked because there's still 90% of the market there that doesn't have an iPad.
Yeah.
Nowhere, they're not even close to peaking.
I mean, they sold, how much did they sell this quarter? Like 10 million or something?
10 million iPads. I think it was 14 million, which is just it's insane.
Yeah.
And that was down from the previous quarters.
Yeah.
And they still sold 14 million.
And they sold 31 million iPhones.
In 3 months, not over the year, in 3 months.
Yeah, in 90 days, they sold 31 million iPhones.
A 6-month-old machine still selling more than any other device out there.
And what would you say about, $600 a piece?
The average selling price I think Apple announced was $581 for their iOS devices. So yeah, you're paying if you walk in the store and get it unlocked, it's $600. That's what AT&T is paying for it. Rogers is paying for it. So yeah, sales are just insane, and yet here we are talking once again about how Apple's having a blog quarter. If this is a blog quarter, God help us, what's going to happen this coming Christmas?
Yep.
When they will, again, sometime in late September, early October, they're going to announce new iPhones. They're going to announce, the Mac Pro is still has to be announced as a date, which I got to believe is going to happen before Thanksgiving. It's not going to sell 14 million, but it's certainly going to jumpstart sales there. I got to believe a new iMac is coming out in that time frame too, in time for Christmas.
Well, I don't know, because the iMac, realistically, it was announced at the beginning of this year. Or the end of last year, but it didn't ship until the beginning of this year.
No.
So it might be maybe upgraded a little bit, but I don't know if we'll see any big changes.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's gonna be any huge. I mean, it's a great design. It's a great machine. I don't think we'll see any big change. I think the Mac Pro is the big change for the desktop line. I don't think we're gonna see any changes physically in the MacBooks or the MacBook Pros or the MacBook Airs. I don't even think we're going to see any huge physical changes in the iPad or the iPhone. There's no need. If you can sell 31 million of a 6-month-old phone, all you got to do is tweak it, and I think iOS 7 is going to be the tweak.
It could very well be. I mean, what Apple did last time to the iPhone 5 was pretty impressive. You know, you had the morons out there saying, "Oh, well, it looks the same." Yeah, but everything inside that actually makes it work has been updated.
That's right, yeah.
You know, new Wi-Fi technologies and new cell technologies and new Bluetooth and, new chips, new everything. So it worked faster, it worked better. And that was the thing. Now, if you had put a different case on it and left all the old technologies, everybody would have raved about it. Yep. Ooh, look how pretty it is. I want something that's going to work.
Yep, exactly.
And you want to test something, go to a big box store and look at these tablets that they have sitting out. You can tap on the screen 3 or 4 times and it won't do anything.
Or it'll break.
I feel like just punching the screen after a couple of taps. What are you doing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The lag time is just ridiculous.
It's bad.
Speaking of lag time, you recorded a new amplify with Benjamin this morning. It's still not up on the website. What the hell?
I don't know.
What is wrong with this guy? You're working with amateurs. I get this show posted a half hour after it's up. Why are you working with amateurs?
I'll tell you, you are very quick.
I don't understand.
You're very quick.
Very quick. Well, I got nothing else to do. That's why.
Well, there you go.
Just patch holes in the igloo. Folks, been talking to Jim Dalrymple from The Loop at loopinsight.com. He's here each and every week, whether you want him to be or not. Thanks for being on video, buddy. I really appreciate it. It's great.
Thanks.
All right, talk to you soon. See you. Bye-bye. I got to figure out how to get him off my screen now. There we go. He's gone. Folks, when we come back from this short break, we're going to talk to Ben Bajarin from techpinions.com about his article at techpinions.com about tablets and seasonality. This is Your Mac Life. Ben, can you hear me now? Why aren't you on video, dude? By the way, we're live. Don't forget.
Sweet. I'm trying. It's grayed out. I'm working on it.
Yes, technology expert Ben Bajarin from techpinions.com.
I don't know why the video icon's grayed out.
That's okay. We won't worry too much about it.
I keep working on it.
Okay, you keep working on it. Yeah, folks, Ben is a columnist over at techpinions.com, wrote as always, a very interesting article called Tablets, Seasonality, and Adoption Cycles. And I think if I can wrap my head around what you were saying in the article, you think you may be able to explain how the sales cycle of tablets, not just the iOS tablets, but tablets in general, go. Is that correct? Am I encapsulating your article correctly?
Yeah, the root of it is just looking more at how technologies move through the adoption cycle, and then, more importantly, what those adoption cycles can teach us about, how consumer buying psychology works. So that's sort of the overall root, I think, of it, and obviously some thoughts around how adoption of certain technologies take place, I think sheds light on some of the things we see in the market today. At least I think it's got, some helpful insight around, what's happening.
Yeah, I think one of the things that struck me was the line in the second paragraph. My conviction is not that we are seeing saturation, but seasonality. I think that's very interesting. I think you may be the first person I've seen who has not only said there isn't saturation, but there's a different reasoning behind it. first of all, explain to the audience why you don't think this is saturation.
Well, I mean, obviously, it has to do with the size of the market. Our forecasts for tablets are significantly large. I mean, I think we're going to hit 500 million tablets by the 2014, 15 timeframe.
Wow.
Most of my analyst colleagues have that somewhere in the 2017 timeframe, and I think we're projecting that to happen quite a bit sooner. There's a lot that goes into that. I mean, it's obviously those aren't all iPads, even though we think a healthy percentage will be.
Yeah.
There's certainly a lot going on with just knockoffs in China. Elements in the UK, I think, that are having some interesting tension there competitively. But we think this is a huge market, and so we're looking at pretty small sales overall compared to our large forecast. So we think there's a tremendous amount of headroom. So you keep that the headroom and the growth opportunity kind of in the back of your mind when you think about, okay, well, how can we be saturated? It's not that everybody who has a tablet wants one. I think what we're just seeing, though, is consumers start to figure out what they want. And, if you put yourself in a consumer mindset, you're facing, I need to buy perhaps a smartphone, I might want a tablet, and I might be even interested in a new PC. We've been compiling quite a bit of research around tablet ownership and looking at the impacts that has on the landscape. And I think there's some very interesting things that's yielded. I brought up a couple of those in the article I wrote today, and we can discuss those as well. But I think it's just purely the headroom for growth in this segment. We think it's much, much bigger than the PC section, the PC's part of the market. And because of that, we think we've got a long way to grow. So because of that growth, there's just no way it's saturated.
You said in the article that this was always the case for smartphones. It appears the end of the year is now also the hot cycle for tablets and traditional PCs. Why is that just happening now? I would have assumed that this has always been the case, but reading your article, that it hasn't been the case. Well, why is the tablet and traditional PC market just catching up to what was presumed to be a hot buying season for every other device on the planet?
Well, tablets, for the most part, didn't have this seasonality shift, just mostly because Apple was aggressive in the first half of the year.
Yeah.
PCs, though, have always sort of had this semi-annual release cycle. The first half, what you might see before the summer in terms of release was actually geared more toward IT buying. IT buying when IT was buying these things. Obviously there's impacts on the whole bring your own device thing that's just, throwing all of that into disarray. But when IT was corporate buying the way that they were, and they still are today, but when they were buying in mass, that generally happened in the first 6 months. Those were not seasonal purchases. So the big OEMs, the HPs and Dells and whatnots, were trying to put stuff in the market that were relevant for IT buyers who had budget in the first half of the year to spend on IT. Mm-hmm. Now that that's changing, I think we're seeing everybody now shift more toward what is now the consumer section of the market, which is the latter half. And obviously BYOD plays a role into that if we're thinking about, how these things go into the workplace. But I think those pushes now are moving that seasonal needle, moving all of those devices now toward that being the real hot buying cycle. And I think it's just the nature of that shift where IT had more influence than they do. Now they don't. Now consumers have more influence, and that's why we're seeing this seasonal shift to the holiday quarter.
Got a question from ArcSign in our RC chat room. Please ask Mr. Bajarin if a good parallel question is, why would tablets sell at the same rate throughout the year?
Well, again, it could come back to how enterprises are using these things. We're actually seeing quite a bit of enterprise pickup, with tablets. So it could very well be that we're continuing to see that growth happen in large deployment experimentation. And again, not even in the U.S. markets. I mean, we think a lot about, what's happening in the U.S. and to some degree what's going on in Europe and even Asia is not the same seasonality that we see. I mean, we certainly see differences of that in smartphones in that, if you're up for a subsidy, your subsidy may or may not be seasonal or not. But that's, I think, where we're starting to see some of the impacts of these consumer purchases now shifting toward the end of the year, whereas in the first, call it 3 years that we had this product, and even the iPad, we saw that sort of continued quarter-on-quarter growth because the people who knew they had disposable income, and I'll bring up a point on this that make sense. But those who had that disposable income were buying them, and those weren't necessarily seasonal purchases, because we might have been talking about just the early tip of that adopter curve. And so with that comes, more disposable income to buy these things, and that doesn't necessarily depend on seasonality. But now that we're seeing these devices trickle into the mass market, these are people who have to make, trade-offs and decisions for what they're going to buy this holiday. We're seeing it now start to make the pressure onto that. So I think we'll still see segments of sales. I think what we're seeing now sort of explains that the middle half of the year is going to be a bit more hard to predict than perhaps the earlier or the later part of the year. But we just got done with some research, and I've actually seen some other from some colleagues of mine pointing out that well over 80%, close to 90% of tablet owners, and this is the global survey. This is not just the United States. This includes Asia and others. All own PCs. So what's becoming clear about that is that this was a segment who already owned a PC. Interestingly, it wasn't actually being used as a replacement in more than 60-ish to 70% of those people weren't using them as a replacement. It was an additive purchase, and a lot of those consumers still intend to buy a PC at some point in time. So the tablet, I think, is playing the complementary role that we sort of always thought it would, and I think that explains why the mix is going to shift to 60% tablets being 7 to 8 inch. Clearly those devices are not replacements; they're complements. But on top of that, we still want to do what I'm saying, everything on everything. Everything I do on my PC, I'm still going to want to do on my tablet. I might just pick different screens for the context. And when it comes to hardcore productivity, whether that's consumer productivity or enterprise productivity, I'm going to go to the biggest screen I have, because one can't argue that the bigger the screen, the more productive you will be.
You make an interesting statement that I would have some disagreement with in the article. You say retail placement, promotions, and online offline marketing are going to be keys to success. Obviously, us Mac users would argue the operating system, the value for the money, is the key to success. But do you actually believe that inroads can be made by other companies if they have good retail placement, good promotion, good online, offline marketing? Can that make a difference?
Well, I think marketing certainly can make a difference. I mean, obviously, I don't expect everybody in the market to buy a tablet this holiday or a PC to buy Macs, to buy Apple products. So I do think and I also don't think many of those consumers just want the cheapest thing out there. So I think there's going to be a heavy amount of, call it, genuine shopping. So, this is a mindset that may or may not have their mind made up. Obviously, friends and family and trusted sources can help lead into how that decision's made, and it may not have to be, how much is done at retail. Obviously, I think most educated consumers in developed markets are going into retail stores with their minds made up. But I think promotionals will play a lot into that. I think commercial marketing, whether that be media, TV broadcast, whatever. I think all of that helps play into, what you look as the consumer, mind share, competing for consumer mind share. And I think that's important. I do think, that everybody's going to have opportunities. But if you put yourself, again, right, in everybody that's going to be releasing a device this quarter, or the holiday quarter, and hoping to go after consumer, and let's just look at PCs, for example, because I don't think there'll be a lot of really competitive tablets. But if we just look at PCs, you've got Acer and HP, you've got Dell, you've got Toshiba. How do companies like that cut above the noise when you've got someone like Samsung, right, and even Apple, who will do, I think, some more marketing campaigns for the Mac this fall, outspending them 10 to 1 on marketing. That's going to make a difference. Yeah. But I think you'll see some other interesting things happen by retailers and carrier channels to try to push some stuff that, again, may or may not be the obvious stuff.
And they've got to do something, because right now, as folks in the IRC chat room are not laughing, but mocking you for the mind share statement, it's true. Apple has a certain amount, if not the majority, of literal mind share. When you say, as someone has said many times, there's the iPad and there's everything else. There's no tablet market. There's the iPad market, and there's the folks who are trying to catch up with it. And that's mind share, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mind share, brand share. There's all these things that I think factor into how people make decisions. And, the important thing, when we're thinking about all of this, is that there are a lot of consumers out there who, don't read the tech blogs regularly, don't salivate over everything that comes out. These are, people whose interests are very simple, and their needs and wants with technology is very simple. And so I think, what they value may be different than what someone else values. And you're going to see, again, I hit the notion of personal preference pretty heavily. You're going to see personal preference play its way out. And that's again why I think some products will bode better than others. Some products are more highly differentiated than others. Mm-hmm. But I think the point's going to be there's a battle for what we'll just call consumer mindshare. And again, that doesn't just mean that marketing is the only way to do it. I think trusted sources, friends and family play a pretty big impact on how the spread of ideas, the spread of adoption happens with technology. But you put all that together and you come back with kind of where we're at today with these consumers really trying to figure out what they want.
You say in the article also, and this is something I've thought for a long time, you say that we've gathered quite a bit of research suggesting a high level of buyers' remorse for low-cost tablets. Apple's never going to tell us, but what percentage do you think of iPhone, say 5 people, iPad 4 people, owned another device before buying an iOS device? In other words, they had an Android tablet or they had an Android phone and went, ooh, don't like this for any number of reasons, that remorse for the low-cost thing, and decided to take a step up into what they perceive to be the higher quality or better, air quotes, iPad or iPhone?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, we've been trying to get as much data as we could around, the platform switchers, and it sort of seems like there's this cyclical annual cycle that we've noticed for the past 12 to 18 months that as many people leave one platform, so many other people also come into the platform, either they've switched from the back one. So it's kind of like a small percent that kind of comes and goes, and it's sort of equal. So you see these fluctuations, but it's hard to sort of ping, that same degree. It's not a large number. I mean, 4 to 6% fluctuation back across. This quarter, though, this holiday, I think with the new iPhone lineup is going to be an interesting one to watch. We did some consumer interview research specifically with people who had switched from the iPhone to an Android device, something comparable, likely the S3 or S4 and or the HTC One, etc. And they did so for experimental reasons. It was is the grass greener on the other side kind of an experiment. And a very high level of percentage of those people said they're going to go back to the iPhone. Now, I don't know how large that equates to the marketplace because, again, we targeted a very specific type of person for this, and it's a little harder to quantify. But I just wanted to know, of these people who switched for the grass is on the greener, how many were happy and how many were switching. And there was some people that were happy, but the majority were like, no, I'm going back to the iPhone. Yeah. So things like that interest me because, the sample size was large enough for me to think there's something there. I think a lot will be shed when we see the holiday quarters because, I'm savvy to numbers and I can't always tell them publicly, but I can see, I'll see toward the end of the year how much iPhone sold versus Galaxies, for example.
Arxon in the RC chat room also wants to know, ask him why manufacturers haven't turned more resources towards tablets, since that's where consumers have gone to. Consumers have turned to tablets in big numbers.
So it's a business question at this point. We get in, just by nature of what I do, we get into, these types of discussions with the OEMs. And, sort of what you continually hear is what, I've said and you've heard others say. There's really not much of a market, outside of the iPad. Executives making decisions do believe that. And so it's kind of hard if you're looking at putting resources from what might be your mobile strategy or perhaps, a fledgling PC business that you still have hope for. You look at that and say, well, I'm about to compete for 5 to 6, maybe 10% of the market at best. That's not really a good business decision at this point. And then the other one comes back to platform. Mm-hmm. Are you going to bet on Microsoft? Probably not. And Android has almost zero, again, momentum when it comes to tablet optimized apps. So you don't have a good option competitively to build something. And again, executives at all these OEMs, they're smart. They know that. And that's one specific reason why they shy away from certain things, make certain decisions. And, they know that right now they just really can't build a true iPad competitor.
Bob Studer sends us an email. It says iPhone 5 versus 4S and 3GS sales. What do you think about the fact that 50% of iPhone sales aren't iPhone 5s?
Yeah. Well, think then there's a lot of things in the market. If you look at this is the adoption curve, and much of the data that we're still seeing around that validates really what I said, not just about tablet owners still kind of being in their first few generations of tablets for trying to figure out what exactly they want, but more importantly, why they want it. I think when you come to a self-awareness of a product that you don't just know what you want, but you know why you want it, that makes for the buying psychology that leads to the kind of segmentation that I think we'll get to at some point in time in these markets. But the key being about smartphones is that I think we still have quite a number of people out there who are either on their first and or second, or perhaps not even first smartphone yet. And so because of that, what I said in the article that I think sheds light on this is that it's like when you put yourself in your shoes of when you were first getting a car, you weren't really in a situation to be terribly picky. You'd take it any way you could get it, and that's just the beginning of that adoption cycle. And we always find that the paths of these sorts of consumers, once they own a product, and it could be that they just wanted to get it inexpensively, and that's what you're seeing, right? With the 3G and the 4S, these were either free or $99, etc. That's a good explanation of, well, I want to make this leap, but I'm not willing to take the $200 risk. I'm willing to take the $99 risk or the free risk,
yeah.
But I know I need to get in this, and I'm going to figure out what I want. Overwhelmingly, we see this with tablet owners. We see this with people who buy low-cost smartphones. Huge percentages. I mean, 80 plus. I don't have the stat off my thing, but it's I know it's greater than 80% intend to buy up, spend more money on their next one. And that just shows the adoption cycles, because again, we're not talking about thousands upon thousands of dollars. It's not like you're going from, a Toyota to a Ferrari. It's just a couple $100, maybe $50, but they're willing to make that investment once they know that they value those features of those new devices.
You said that most people aren't the geeks we are, but knowing all this stuff, the ins and outs of it, does that mean that Apple's marketing becomes so much more important to convince those folks who do have either an older iPhone or an Android phone of some sort or a tablet? That's where those folks are getting their information from, is from the marketing they see on TV and magazines?
Well, I mean, it always has been. I mean, I think there's a pretty specific direct correlation to their growth and marketing spends, and you can make the same case about Samsung's. And I think that's always been an important part of the decision making process. It's not the only one, but I think it's part of that, and it's an important one that has to get brought out to the mass market. I mean, I don't know how many of you have a spouse, either a wife or a husband, that's not technical and is kind of in this market that I'm talking about, that has just no idea, and really doesn't even care about technology. But like my wife, for example, is a huge reader of Sunset Magazine. Now, in Sunset Magazine, there's only one company in their advertising that there's an iPad app, and it's the Sunset magazine, and there is no other tablet app. They're just saying, look, if you're a Sunset reader, we own it's a tablet app. Yeah. So if you're this person and you're in the market for a tablet, you go, well, I like this magazine, and really all I see is that they have an iPad, so I must probably want an iPad. I mean, those are the little things that factor into the buying psychology of so many of these consumers. And I think all of those things, again, even friends and family, outside trusted source, I mean, all those things come into play. But I do think that marketing that we're going to see both online and then more importantly in print and in broadcast is going to help compete for mind share. I mean, I think it almost always does.
We know, air quotes, know that Apple's going to be announcing a new iPad, a new iPhone this coming September, October. Do you think they would still have a huge holiday season without a new device? If they held off, they're not going to. If they held off till next March, April, which was the previous buying cycle or announced cycle of the iPad, in other words, I guess the question is, the iPhone 5 and the iPad 4 such a strong product in relationship to the competition that Apple doesn't even have to announce new stuff?
Yeah, it's an excellent hypothetical. I mean, I thought this with the 4, for example. I thought they didn't need to even release something that year. It was just so much better than everyone else's devices that they could have just kept going with it. And obviously with the 4S, they sort of did and didn't have to really revamp manufacturing. So, it's hard to say. I mean, I think it really depends on who their customer is. If the premium price point is saturated, then you're fighting for upgraders. And if you're fighting for upgraders, then there's just a certain way and a certain allure you need to present yourself, to capture that market. So again, I think it really just came back to how strong they need, to go into growth. I think, my gut is if they didn't launch something, I think they'd still have a good quarter. I think because they're going to launch something, they're going to have an even better quarter.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. No matter what Wall Street may have thought about yesterday's announcements, Gene Munster, I think, has just completely gone off the deep end when he says that they're going to have a flat next 6 months because Apple won't announce any new products. Gene must have banged his head at some point. I think it's going to be another huge season, the next 6 months for Apple, simply because of the seasonality that you're talking about. They seem to have really tied into this and really nailed this down, that this is where people are expecting to buy these new products at the perfect time of year, the time of year when we're already going to be buying stuff for ourselves. It's not like it's March and April when you have the bills from Christmas and you think, oh, I can't afford $500 for an iPad. Now the seasonality aspect of it is I deserve to spend $500 for an iPad or an iPhone for that matter.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's going to be a very strong quarter. I think a lot of expectations, will get brought. I mean, obviously we've got one more between then and this one. Everybody's watching closely because this is like the one right up before some assumed launches. So you can sort of just expect there's going to be some delaying in buying because of that. And I think they'll have a lot of momentum going into to Q4. But it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be a very crowded buying season. I mean, even if there are a lot of options, and let's just say a lot of them are for Apple, assuming that perhaps they launch more than just one iPhone, perhaps a portfolio, you're adding then to the choice, in the market. And I think that, again, comes back to things. So I think it really just comes down to, who's going to be in the market for what. I actually think Macs are going to do really well. I sort of have a view that I'm finding now, just looking most at the Twitter sphere, that is contrarian. But I actually think that we've not reached peak Mac. I think the Mac is in position to grow share in the PC market. Not that I'm saying the PC market's going to grow, but I think we are on the verge of a fairly large refresh cycle that could happen over the next 12, 18 months. And I think the Mac is very well positioned to take advantage of that. So I actually think that we're going to get some surprises when we look at Mac sales. Maybe not next quarter, but I think we're going to see it. And again, I think that the Mac's going to be an interesting growth of share of the overall PC market. That's going to be an opportunity. But I think it's going to be a good quarter for them. And again, I've seen some stuff from the competition, and it sort of just adds to my conviction that it's going to be a good quarter for Apple.
When you say Macs, are you talking desktop and laptops?
Just the Mac line. Just the Mac line. I mean, I think, I don't think there will be a mass market price point product on the market that gets the battery life of the MacBook Air, for example. And I think that this real odd confusion of Microsoft and their partners to push these 2-in-1 products is going to either push people toward the Macs or cause them to wait. So I just think, competitively across the board, and I include, tablets and smartphones and stuff I've seen, I'm optimistic for the holiday quarter.
Yeah, your infatuation with your new MacBook Pro is bordering on creepy. I just got to say, it's just, you love that thing, don't you? You've been raving about it on Twitter now for weeks.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can only explain, it's, or try to elaborate in a way that it's just simply liberating. I mean, you literally don't worry about plugging in anymore. I mean, I've been at these councils for a big semiconductor company for the past 2 days, and I was the only one of, call it 20 people that did not plug their notebook in from 8:30 to 4:45. And I still had 5 hours left of battery when I was done. And you're thinking about it, I just don't even worry about it anymore. I mean, it's incredible. So I think battery life is a real perceived problem in the marketplace, especially for people who know they need PCs and want PCs because of their productivity across the board. Mm-hmm. And again, if you look at the stat that I shared, which is that high level of tablet owners do own PCs, and this is, again, worldwide and even in emerging markets, those people still want to buy a new one. So we're talking about a lot. And just some stats that I've come across that all our listeners might find interesting is there's approximately 400 to 500 million PCs in use today that are about 4.5 to 5 years old.
Yeah.
And when you think about moving from something like that to something that's going to get you more than all day battery life, and again, you're a person out of that 4 to 500 who know you need a PC, that's a pretty big refresh, I think, coming. And that's why I say I think the Mac's well positioned to take advantage of that.
Dave D wants to know which of the MacBook Airs do you have?
I have the 13-inch 512 fully loaded machine.
Yeah. So the fully loaded the 256 SSD drive.
Yep.
I've been thinking. This is the first time the MacBook Air has been of any interest to me too, is because of that battery life, of the ability of. I think it was you that first called it a coffee shop killer. That that people are going to go into coffee shops and stay there for days now because they didn't have to plug things in. And that battery life is remarkable.
I mean, I'm a PC person. I mean, I use these devices regularly for my line of work. I have for a long time, obviously, and it's the first time that you have this very profound experience with the device where you're just like, I don't even bring the charger. You don't even think about plugging in. You can just go. What feels like forever. It's not, but what feels like forever. It's liberating. It's so, and like I said, this is a perceived problem. This is a known issue. To go from what my old MacBook Air was, which was maybe 5 to 6 hours, to literally better than 12 and 13 is significant.
And you're talking about using this like a normal human being would, not that you're dimming the battery and turning everything off. Things like that. You're using it as you would normally use your laptop, as the way it was designed to be used.
Yeah, all day. I think the only real tweak I make is I keep the backlight keys off because most of the time I don't need them. I'm in a lit setting. No. That's really the only sort of optimization that I run for it. But other than that, I mean, I'm on it. I mean, you're literally on it all day. I'm doing Twitter. I'm writing emails. I'm checking the web. I mean, the screen's rarely going off except for when we broke for lunch, and it's like at the end of the day, you still have 5 hours left. It's insane. So, like I said, you think about people who know this is a problem and are like, that's really valuable to me. And it's not just, fluff. You hear me talking about it. You got crazy benchmarks coming out of ZDNet and AnonTech and PC Mag saying they're getting 13, 14 hours. I mean, that's legitimate backup for this claim. So, that's why I said I think battery life, I've said it, battery life I think is the new megahertz race, and it will be that way for a little while. But this is the first time where we've seen products really take the significant leap that they've taken in battery life. Before, it's always been like an hour or two. To go from that to 5 to 6 more hours is pretty significant. So I think this market's ready.
How much of this is attributable to the Haswell chip from Intel? In other words, how much of this will be available in the next version of any Ultrabook or any Netbook or any other laptop out there?
It's a good question. The answer is a lot of it. Yeah. But as I said, you will not see other vendors make the same battery life claims that Apple is. And there's very specific optimizations, both in software and around hardware, that's been done that the other vendors, I don't want to say can't do, but I'm kind of saying that. And because of that, I think they're going to have this edge. And, my anticipation with Mavericks and just what they've done with AppNap and just some of the other optimization features is that you'll probably see even better than that for people who upgrade the Haswell machines. Mm-hmm. And then even more importantly, Intel said yesterday that they've gotten to 4.5 watt fanless Haswell designs, which means that these are core machines, Core i3, Core i5 types of machines getting 4.5 to 5 watts, which over time, call it even next year more, is going to mean we're going to get to even more battery. I now see a future where we probably don't have to worry about battery life with PCs anymore. This notion of 12, maybe going up to 16, even to 18 is going to be a reality. And at that point, it's just kind of like, hey, of course it goes all day and then some. Now we just need that in our phones.
Yeah, no kidding. That'll be the next step. Folks, I've been talking to Ben Bajarin of TechPinions.com. He's written an article called Tablets, Seasonality, and Adoption Cycles. Check it out at TechPinions.com. Ben, thanks very much for doing this, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Sure thing, man. Anytime. See you later, guys.
Next time we'll get video, right?
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, later, bye.
See, I really wanted to get Ben on video to balance out the unattractiveness of both Dalrymple and myself on your screens at the same time. I'm doing this for you folks. I'm trying to help you guys out because that was a little ugly on one screen. So, whatever I can do to help make that better for you, the audience, is something I'm willing to do. For you folks who are tuned in a little later, I wanted to let you guys know, I said it off the top of the show, there will not be, I know I'm pre-announcing this real early, will not be shows in the month of October. Because, as I've confirmed over and over again with the cute Italian girl, who's just over here, so say hi.
Ciao.
Ciao again. Again, I think it's like, what's the Hawaiian thing? What's the Hawaiian hello and goodbye? Luau. No, that's not it. What is that? I can't. Audio way too hot. Where did my audio get too hot? Sorry. Let me turn down my. I don't know which one of these buttons turned down. There we go. That's the master volume. Aloha. That's the word. Aloha. Yeah, I think. Ciao is like that because ciao is both hello and goodbye see. Jeez. So for the month of October, there will not be any UMAC live shows. And as I said earlier, I feel kind of guilty for you folks who are subscribing that you won't have anything to subscribe to. So what we're planning on doing is both the cute Italian girl and I will be, I'll be creating a super secret website just for subscribers. For those folks who subscribed in the month of August, the month of September, and or the month of October, at any amount, 2, 5, 10, 15, whatever it is. For those 3 months, you'll be put on a list and you'll get the password and the URL to the super secret website, and we'll be doing audio and video and pictures and text and all kinds of fun stuff that you guys will be able to check out. I might try to do some stuff for the regular audience, but it's going to be, the time difference is going to be a bear. Bandwidth and wireless access is going to be a bear. So that's probably not going to happen. I'll be honest with you. You can follow me on Twitter and you'll get the occasional tweets, but a lot of it is going to be dedicated towards those folks who subscribe. And basically we're going to be paying for part of the trip because the cute Italian girl is making me pay my own way, which I think is fair. If she's going to be my tour guide, is my audio still hot? Okay. If she's going to be my tour guide, it's only fair that you pay her. Tour guides get paid. So I've got to basically buy all her food. Luckily, she's vegetarian. So all I got to do is buy her pasta and some green stuff. Do they have spinach in Italy? Yes, okay. So, and risotto. And then she's covered. I'll eat all the wild boar and what other animals they have in Italy? Oh, yeah, pig. Parma ham. I'm going to eat the biggest Parma ham I can find. I may just buy a block. Do they actually have blocks of Parma ham? I may buy a block of Parma ham and just eat my way through it. I've heard about Parma ham and prosciutto. I will eat my body weight prosciutto. I swear to you. I will eat 260 pounds of prosciutto. I promise. In a month. And there's some sort of chocolate festival going on in Perugia in October. And apparently the cute Italian girl is a chocolate addict, so I'll have to buy her chocolate too. There's actually a chocolate hotel, isn't there? Yeah. In Perugia, there's a chocolate hotel that they can only build in October because it's too warm, because it melts otherwise. Is that right? No?
Yes.
Oh, that is right. She's playing along. with chocolate sheets that are really, really messy. But yeah, she's from Torino, and so we're going back to visit her mom and her dad and see her brother and see. I'll get to see the town, little village that she lived, that she was born and brought up in, and we're going to go to Venice and Milano, and hopefully, fingers crossed. If I've saved up enough money, we'll be able to rent a motorcycle, and I'll be able to take a motorcycle up the Stelvio Pass. Oh, the Stelvio Pass. It's in the mountains in northern Italy, and it's one of those insanely twisty. Do a Wikipedia search for Stelvio Pass, Stelvio Pass. It's just nuts. It's just absolutely insane road. So all that is planned for the month of October. So just warning you guys ahead of time that probably no show. Not probably. I'm going to tell you right now, there won't be any shows for the month of October. We're going on vacation for the month. We're going to Italy. Good Italian wine. Oh yeah, Monty is right. Yeah. Apparently, according to the Cute Italian Girl, Torino, the Piedmont region, has incredibly good wine and cheese. So we will also be, and she's a little bit of a lush. She drinks a lot of red wine. For a little tiny person, it's surprising how much red wine she can put away. Isn't that right? She's beat red now from embarrassment, but it's true. She can drink quite a bit. I'm just saying. So, MacMan says, sounds like a blast, Sean. Yeah, it's going to be. The fun thing is going to Italy with a native Italian. That's going to be the fun part. There have been, you go to a foreign country, and there's always that. I remember when I was in Japan and other places where they don't speak the language, it's a little awkward at times. But being able to go someplace with someone who can speak the language and is a native of the area, knows where the good restaurants are, knows where the offbeat kind of places are. Oh no, we're not going to go there. That's too touristy, but we'll go here. It's just as good. Or no, we won't go there for the views. We'll go here. A perfect example, I think I was talking about a couple weeks ago. When you drive from Calgary to Banff, the first stop everyone makes is this beautiful vista across this lake of one of the mountains, but there's like a concrete making plant in the middle with smoke. It's not a very good picture. And I keep wanting to stop for those people and go, no, keep going. Because 5 miles on the road is better pictures, even more spectacular pictures. So yeah, that's what I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to Italy. I love Italy. People who listen to the show for years know that I've always loved Italy. Everything about it, the food, the people, the language. So being able to go to places I've never been before, the northern part of Italy, and going there with a native Italian who's going back home for a visit, I think is gonna be a lot of fun. So let me get my website up. For prizes, as always, you can join the Friends of Your Mac Life. Just send us an entry form and we'll put your name into our virtual hat. We got prizes from the folks at Incipio, Joby, Lowpro, Acme Made, Pad and Quill cases, and Olo Clip. Let's give away I think I've got one more Joby prize pack. Even if I don't, they'll give us one. The Joby Grip Tight Gorilla Pod Stand, the Low Pro Slingshot AW Bag, and the Acme Made Bay Street Sleeve. So we're going to open up the virtual prize hat. Let me just find it here for a second. July. There we go. That's not right. There we go. And what we'll do is we'll get the Cute Italian Girl to yell chow, not chow, bastard. And it's not bastard? No. Oh, it's what? Basta. See, it sounds like bastard. That's what I'm used to hearing from cute women. Bastard. And go ahead, say anytime you like. Say stop. Basta. She did. See, she said it. She's loud and clear. This one's going to go out to David Roberts. Congratulations to David Roberts. You are a winner of the Joby Grip Tight Gorilla Pod Stand, the Low Pro Slingshot AW Bag, and the Acme Made Bay Street Sleeve. So send me an email. Let me know what size iPad you have that you would like to wrap your iPad in with the Acme Made Bay Street Sleeve, and we'll get the folks at Joby, Low Pro, and Acme Made to send one of those things off to you. Folks, that's it till next week. And again, weather permitting, we'll be back on next week's show as soon, assuming that the weather is not another pop-up thunder showers that literally scare the living daylights out of me. Until Sean needs to order a Rosetta Stone Italian course. Why? My Rosetta Stone is right over here. Why would I need to speak Italian when I'm going to be with an Italian? That makes no sense, Monty. That makes no sense. Arc Sign, is there an October beer festival in Italy, too? Yeah, Italy's not really known for its beer, Arc Sign. There's Peroni and what's the other? Moretti is the other big Italian beer. When I was in Italy last time, we were there for a month. I had beer for 3 days, and then I discovered the wine. Screw beer. If you're in Italy, do not drink Italian beer. Moretti and Peroni are okay, but the wine, hi, vai, mamma mia, you got to drink the wine. Yeah, I stopped drinking beer for the month we were in Italy and just drank wine. Macman, side trip to Germany? No, but we might get a side trip to Slovenia. I know that sounds odd, but that's where the motorcycle rental place is, or one of them is. Oddly enough, all the places that rent motorcycles in that area charge mileage of 25 cents a kilometer. A kilometer. So basically 50 cents a mile. No, that's not right. Anyway, it's really expensive. Except for this company in Slovenia that not only rents unlimited mileage, they rent my bike too, my FJR 1300 Yamaha. So I'd be able to rent a motorcycle that was the same as the bike I'd have here, which means I'd be very comfortable on the bike. So we'd end up going to Slovenia. If we do the Stelvio Pass, we'll end up in Switzerland. And one of the parts I wanted to go to is I want to go to Monaco, to Monte Carlo. Not for the gambling, but because in Monte Carlo is the Jacques Cousteau Institut d'Oceanographique. I've always wanted to go to Jacques Cousteau's Oceanographic Institution. So it's another place I would want to go in Italy. So we might hit 1, 2, 3, like 4 different countries in the same month's trip. So it'll be a lot of fun. What do you do when you get lost and the CIG isn't around to translate for you? Yeah, right. Like she's going to lose me. I'm going to be the biggest thing in Italy. I'll be the size of a Dolomite. There's no way she's ever going to lose me. And then I'm not going to lose her. I'll put a little leash on her. This is on her like a belt loop, so she can't go away from me. She can't lose me. That's enough. Enough questions. Monty, that would be very cool to see. I've been a Jacques Cousteau fan since I was a kid, so I've always wanted to go to his Oceanographic Institute. So we'll talk more about this on next week's show, folks. Until next week, as always, I've been Sean King, and you've been listening to Your Mac Life. See ya!